Hey everybody, welcome back to Magic Time. I'm Thomas, your host. Thanks so much for joining me for another installment of the Napa Valley Sub-Appellation series. And today I find myself filming on the beautiful Spring Mountain appellation. Now, Spring Mountain as an AVA was established back in 1993, and it was established for its incredible climate and soils and its geography. And the history goes back pretty far with Spring Mountain. The first vineyard up here was planted back in 1874. It was a 25-acre vineyard called La Perla Vineyard. And I know in the early 1900s, the Behringer brothers also came up here to Spring Mountain and planted vineyard. So it does have a deep historical context with Napa Valley. Prohibition era and the phylloxera era kind of wiped out a lot of the vineyard up here, and the first people to come back up to Spring Mountain and establish a vineyard and a winery were Fred and Eleanor McRae, and they started in 1953, the Stony Hill Vineyard, which is still such a fantastic winery, and they produce some of the best Chardonnay in all of Napa Valley, as well as really great Cabernets. It's a really unique geography here on Spring Mountain. It starts at about 400 feet in elevation and goes up to about 2,100 feet in elevation to the top of the Mayacamas Range. We're perched right now right above St. Helena. So when you get to downtown St. Helena, you take Spring Mountain Road and you go all the way up. It's a very windy road. If you ever come up here to Spring Mountain, make sure that you haven't been drinking a whole lot. Make sure that you are well rested and well fed. I have gotten sick on this road going up the entire mountain. It's very windy. At any rate, the soils up here are very well drained. It's an entire eastern facing slope. So what that means is the morning sun that rises in the west hits the vineyards in the morning, and the mornings are very warm up here. And then in the afternoon, it gets rather cool up here because you don't get any of that intense afternoon sun hitting the vineyards on Spring Mountain, typically, depending on the topography of your vineyard up here on the mountain. Because of that, what you have with the Cabernet up here growing is very streamlined, brisk acidity, and also because the soils are really well drained, volcanic matter and sedimentary matter, what you're going to get is very small berries, meaning that when you crush those berries and you go through the fermentation process, you're going to have very pronounced tannin and polyphenols in your wine, and they're going to be grippy wines. So what I look for with Spring Mountain Cabernet is Cabernet that has a lot of intensity, but a lot of brightness and good acidity and very good aromatics. That's for me what characterizes the best wines of Spring Mountain. There's about 30 wine growers up here on Spring Mountain. Most of the wineries do require an appointment, so definitely call ahead before you come up here. I would suggest visiting Pride, which is on the very top of the mountain. Barnett Vineyards is lovely, kind of a hidden little family winery. Philip Togny, La Coya, some of the most fantastic and most expensive wines up here. It was an appellation that was very drastically impacted by the 2020 glass fire. And on the way up here, I couldn't help but notice so many trees burnt down and a lot of devastation happened up here. So please come out here when you get up to Napa Valley and support the vineyards of Spring Mountain. There's a really lovely Merlot producer up here called Paloma, which is a small family winery. They're awesome. Another great Merlot, the Mailbox Vineyard Merlot from Keenan, Robert Keenan Winery. Excellent, excellent wines. Smith Madrone is an amazing property as well up here that produces great white wines and really firm, beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon. You guys got to check out Spring Mountain, some of the very, very best wines in Napa Valley. Anyways, thanks again for joining me here on the channel. Please subscribe, click the like button, and keep following me here on the channel. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Hey guys, just a few details that I left out, as I always forget a few things. Spring Mountain's about 8,600 acres. Only about 1,000 of those are planted to vine. It's still very much a very forested area. Out of those 1,000 acres, most of it's red wine grapes. About 90% of the wine on Spring Mountain is red wine, mostly the Bordeaux varietals, Cabernet, Merlot, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. A little Zinfandel growing up here as well. It only accounts for about 2% of the wine produced here in Napa Valley. It's a very small production. The yields in the vineyards are very low here due to the fact that the vines are growing on the mountain in very well-drained soil, and the vines are very starved for nutrients and water. It's a beautiful place, guys. Got to get up here to Spring Mountain. It's one of the coolest and wettest of all the appellations as well. It gets about 10 to 15 inches more rain than the valley floor does. And it's very cool up here because it gets a lot of oceanic influence. Now there's a wind gap that comes in from the Pacific Ocean that goes through Tamales Bay and Bodega Bay area, kind of flows through the Santa Rosa Plain, and then that wind kind of hits Sonoma Mountain, and then that wind is kind of funneled through the Santa Rosa Creek, and then it hits directly on Spring Mountain. So a lot of cool ocean influence that hits Spring Mountain, as well as the fact that, as I mentioned, it doesn't get any afternoon sun up here on Spring. So very cool, kind of damp district, but amazing wines up in Spring, guys. Thanks once again. Cheers.